The death toll in the genocidal one-way war in Gaza is now well over 35,000, including the missing. The assault of the Israeli army on the southern city of Rafah is likely to add significantly to that appalling number, as well as exacerbating a horrendous Israeli-made humanitarian crisis. In universities around the world, students have protested against the slaughter, and nowhere has their action been more intense than in the United States, where dozens of campuses have been affected by student demonstrations and camps. We are reproducing this article from the website Mondois as an indication of the intensity of that struggle in the USA, and in this case, the University of California, Los Angeles. The aftermath of the violence at UCLA illustrates that we live in an upside-down world where we decry property damage on college campuses as we fund the genocide in Gaza, and where we advocate for free speech until it says stop the genocide. On April 30th, a mob of Zionist vigilantes descended onto UCLA's Palestine Solidarity encampment, besieging it and waging horrific violence against students for hours throughout the night. On May the 1st, UCLA called in the LAPD to clear the encampment by force, unleashing yet another brutal attack on students before the blood from the previous night had a chance to dry. On May the 2nd, UCLA Chancellor Gene Block hosted a town hall for UCLA alumni during which he glossed over the horrific events that took place on campus under his watch. During his webinar to an audience of 1,000 alumni unable to comment, Chancellor Block described the violence of the first night as a scuffle with some pushing and shoving. When asked about clearing the encampment the following night, he went so far as to praise police conduct as patient and professional. He claimed that police did not cause any serious injuries and that they had used techniques to minimize harm. He told these lies with a straight face, as if his audience did not have access to the internet. As if we hadn't seen countless videos of rabid agitators beating students with metal rods and planks of wood, spraying students in the face with bare mace and launching explosives and other projectiles into the encampment. As if we haven't seen the images of students bleeding profusely after being shot in the head with rubber bullets by brutal police forces. As if we haven't heard the screams of terror as students fought for their lives on their own campus. These outright lies from the Chancellor would have come as more of a shock if they did not perfectly align with the reality that we have all become accustomed to over the last 6 months. Zionism relies entirely on fiction, and its defenders will lie blatantly and shamelessly to uphold it, even in the face of irrefutable evidence. Without any basis for the position, the best defense of Zionism has always been censorship and intimidation. Zionists are aware that even the tiniest opening for a legitimate conversation on the topic would send their entire argument crashing down. A recent example of this phenomenon played out when Dean Erwin Chemerinsky of Berkeley Law, one of the most lauded legal minds of our time, was too afraid to let a student speak about Palestine during a school event held at his home. A vocal and staunch champion of free speech, Chemerinsky chose to shout over the speaker and silence her to avoid being confronted with her words. Words he would not be able to refute. It is telling that Chemerinsky is able to argue pervasively and confidently before the Supreme Court, but cannot defend his position on Palestine before one of his students. The use of censorship and repression to uphold Zionism is not exclusive to university contexts. The incidents at UCLA and UC Berkeley are just 2 examples of a widespread phenomenon. Here are a few more examples. Israeli leadership continues to argue that civilians killed in Gaza are unfortunate collateral damage, even after it has come to light that the IOF uses AI to target men in their homes when they are with their wives and children. Western leaders proclaim that Israel has the right to use force in self-defense, while in reality, Palestinians are the ones who are afforded that right under international law as people living under a belligerent and illegal military occupation. The New York Times, America's paper of record, peddled an October the 7th rape hoax that has been thoroughly discredited by multiple sources, and the paper has failed to pull the story from its site. In fact, the only effort New York Times has has made to correct the record for their journalistic malpractice has been launching an internal investigation to identify the source of the leak, revealing the paper's shoddy investigation. Every Biden administration spokesperson gets up on a podium and proclaims that Israel is working tirelessly to minimize civilian casualties, even as the administration bypasses Congress to send 2,000-pound bunker bombs to drop on refugee camps. In an upside-down world where facts mean nothing and fantasy dominates, where we rant and rave about property damage on college campuses as we fund the destruction and decimation of every home, hospital, and school, where university presidents resign for failing to protect students from protest slogans, or Chancellor Block allows his students to be beaten to a pulp 2 nights in a row, where we advocate for free speech until that speech says, "Stop the genocide." Perpetual manipulation and dishonesty is a sign of desperation, a last-ditch effort to salvage an indefensible ideology used to justify ethno-supremacy and apartheid. As these lies continue to grow even more grotesquely and convoluted, they accelerate the demise of the system they seek to defend.